you
What
didn't.
is your question?
You didn't retreat. I'll piggyback off what John's saying. John's saying you didn't retreat into a whiter genre. In fact, you arguably went deeper into.
I got blacker.
Deeper into.
I got blacker.
This is Jack Harlow.
See the whole city from this balcony. Back in 2019, I was outside freely, but now they got it out for me.
One of the most talented singers, or is he a rapper? But either way, he has recently vanished from the musical charts, and I know it's pretty hard for you to believe that the same guy who sang with Drake, Lil Nas X, DaBaby, and other big artists in the game is currently struggling to sell out shows and even gets his music heard. But how come? So, what really happened to Jackman? Was he cancelled? Was he an industry plant? Let's just find out. So, Jack Harlow's real name is Jackman Thomas Harlow, who was born in March 13th, 1998 in Louisville, Kentucky. He started rapping at 12 years old.
Mr. Harlow. Flow so cold, man, I got 'em wearing jackets. White boy swag, yeah, I'm so charismatic. Watch my biz and they say I'm kinda cute.
Made his first mixtape, literally called it Extra Credit, while he was still in middle school. And by 2018, he was signed to DJ Drama's Generation Now label. His life was pretty normal until January 2020 happened, where he dropped What's Poppin'.
What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in. I got options. I can pass that bitch like Stockton.
And if you were on TikTok and YouTube in the 2020 era, you definitely know what I'm talking about. The song was cooked by a producer by Jetson Made Beat, and due to its virality by summer 2020, a remix was done with big artists like DaBaby, Tory Lanez, and Lil Wayne, which peaked at number 2 in the Billboard Hot 100, and after which it went diamond across over 10 million combined units in the United States. This just shows you how successful the remix was at this point. And due to his enormous success, Jack Harlow makes it into the XXL freshman class, and his debut major label album, That's What They All Say, dropped in December 2020, which hits the top 5 of the Billboard 200 and goes double platinum. Lucky guy, right? But at this point of his career, critics had started pointing on some things that would haunt Jack Harlow for the rest of his career. Yes, he was charming, slick, and had commercial instincts, but lyrically, nah. Our boy had some shallowness that kept nagging people who paid close attention at him. And the NPR's review of his 2022 album was, let me put it plainly, and with respect, he was a rising star still finding his voice. But his chart success was real, not gonna lie. The pop culture movement was crazy, but the artistry, nah, that was still being constructed. So 2021 comes and he still has this momentum going and even gets featured on Lil Nas X's Industry Baby, one of the biggest crossover hits of the year. Speaking of which, I even remember setting it as my ringtone at one time. Okay, back to the video. So his verse was the one that actually made it a hit, and those fire bars got people singing it word for word in the entire summer. He later then performs at a Grammy, gets endorsement deal with KFC, and was also spotted at the Met Gala. And he was, how do you say it? He was him at that moment. And then 2022 arrives and Jack Harlow drops First Class in April, which had samples Fergie's Glamorous, a song that was inescapable in his TikTok virality. And luckily for him, it debuts at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was his first solo at number 1. And his first album, Come Home, The Kids Miss You, dropped in May with features from artists like Pharrell, Drake, Lil Wayne, and Justin Timberlake. That got him literally tweeting Strictly Legends on my album. Ended up debuting at number 3 with 113,000 first week units sold. The album got 3 Grammy nominations, which got him performing at the BET Awards, Saturday Night Live invite, and front page of the Rolling Stones cover, making him become inevitable at the moment. But here's where it all started to get complicated, because when his album Come Home, The Kids Miss You sold 113,000 units and debuted at number 3, still, critics talk negatively about it, with NPR saying it misses the mark and simultaneously underutilizes his strengths and emphasizes his weaknesses. And even Rolling Stone himself said he is still finding his voice. And this all narrows down to the fact that Jack Harlow had good production and features, but when it came to him and his actual artistry, his lyricism, his identity as a rapper was quite promising but still incomplete. But one thing I realized that wasn't talked about enough was the fact that his album had no longevity in holding its spot at the Billboard chart like other albums, because for him, his only album spent not more than 1 week at the number 1 spot, after which it moved from number 3 and just disappeared from there. there. So, come 2023, he tries something different and he gets an acting role in a movie called White Men Can't Jump, which was a Hulu remake of the 1992 basketball classic. So Jack Harlow's role was originated by Woody Harrelson, and since he was a rapper, he deserved more acknowledgement, but for him it drew a lot of criticism after the movie was released, and it got a score of 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, with most reviews calling out Jack Harlow for his bad acting. But Jack Harlow didn't hold back, and he later did interviews where he came clean and said, "It got killed. I learned I've got more work to do. It's harder than I thought." But still, with his remarks, it didn't change the fact that most people viewed the movie as a public stumble and had themselves questioning if he was genuine cultural force or a very good marketing project. So, fast forward to April 2023, Jack Harlow drops a fascinating album that I would say most people underrated it, titled Jackman, which had no features and was a total dedication to himself. It debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200, and yes, it was successful as it was his first number 1 on the top rap album charts. And to this album, critics actually responded better, saying it was better compared to his other album. But there was still one problem: his streaming numbers were still low, and this made the album debut and fade away much more quickly than expected. And this made Jack Harlow go quiet in the music front for a while before releasing his hit single Lovin' On Me in November 2023, and the song grabbed the number 1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100, where it held the title for 6 weeks straight before going number 1 globally and crossing 1 billion Spotify streams, making Jack Harlow reappear on the spotlight once again. And so 2024 passes and he gets another movie role in The Instigator alongside Matt Damon and Case Affleck, a film that scores 41% on Rotten Tomatoes, modestly better than his debut, but not that much of a win. And he goes again dormant, releasing no music till 2025, where he releases a collab with Doja Cat titled Just Us. And that got people asking, like, what was Jack Harlow's career at the moment? Because, let me be honest, one day he's a singer, then the next day he's an actor, the following up he is a rapper. Like, bro is just everywhere. I would be surprised if he woke up and started doing skits like Drewski too. So, come February 2026 is where he makes the biggest controversy and kills his career. Jack Harlow announces that he was going to drop his 4th studio album titled Monica, and this caused a huge buzz online, especially after his cover art was posted, making his fans more curious, asking who Monica was, or if it was a concept album, a love story. All in all, the announcement itself generated genuine excitement, because for a rapper who had not dropped an album in 3 years gap, this was going to be some new level type shit. Like, am I right? But when Jack Harlow was in New York and starts doing a lot of interviews to promote his album, he gets himself a slip of the tongue that messes up everything before even his album drops. So, just one day before his album's release, he gets an interview on the New York podcast and he explains to the host why he's taking the neo-soul direction. He acknowledges that he has embraced R&B more deeply than before, and when he was asked more about whether this was a deliberate choice away from the traditional white rapper pivot toward country or pop rock, and then he says it.
What is your question?
You didn't retreat. I'll piggyback off what John's saying. John's saying you didn't retreat into a whiter genre. In fact, you arguably went deeper into
I got blacker.
I
got blacker.
I got blacker. Continuing with, I love black music. I love the sound of black music. And of course, I'm hyper aware of politics today, that safer landing spot that a lot of my white counterparts have found. But hear me now. The words that stuck in the whole interview were, I got blacker. And this was what made him receive a lot of backlash online, because most people took that statement as more of a racial and discriminating. And well, I mean to say that Jack didn't really mean it in that way, but his choice of words were a total failure, to be honest. And with all the social media backlash, he even reached a point they started inventing him some R&B names for him, like Ghostface Vanilla, Chaka Clan, Chance the Cracker, Chalky Braxton. The memes were too genuinely funny, which in a way made it worse, and people got trolling him instead of listening to his music. And for the worst part was when his music arrived, its reviews were not good at all, with Pitchfork giving Monica a rate of 3.1 out of 10, and Alphonse Pierre wrote that Harlow's sexless new album demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of neo-soul. His coffee shop crooning is a transparent exercise in personal rebranding. Readers gave it a 4.7, and Anthony Fantano, who is widely watched music critic on YouTube, calling the album a nothing burger, with his direct quote being, "It's not an eventful album by any stretch of the imagination, and it really has panned out to be one of, like, the big biggest nothing burger projects of 2026. Like if it weren't for the fact that Jack's rollout around this album has spurred just this litany of relentless jokes at his expense because he's been publicly commenting on his blackness, as it were, the album would be making no waves whatsoever. It really is one of the most pointless projects of 2026. And yes, it's a devastating review. Not because I'm angry, but Jack Harlow really failed most of his fans. So, what I can say when you compare his first week sales for his first album and this new one is it doesn't add up, bro. Like, Jack Harlow really dipped down bad. Well, some of his fans still defend him, but truth be told, he is nowhere close to his 2022 era. So, my conclusion is Jack Harlow had everything right for a moment, but he had more controversy pileups than his musical hits. And what let him down the most was the fact that his current album, Monaco, was an attempt to switch genres pretty fast, which ended up as a bad decision. So what happens next is unpredictable. Who knows, he might come back bigger than before, but currently he is on the fall off, and not much longer he is going to be forgotten really fast. So I'm your host Countless, thank you so much for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe below.